What's up, Melanated family? This is your boy Harrison, man, bringing you a brand new episode of my show, the Melanated Convo podcast. How's everybody doing this good evening? This good Wednesday evening, man. I'm ready to get everything popping. This is your first time tuning into the show. I do a few different things here. We always cover a specific topic, right? On today's show, we are going to cover the topic of, for all my brothers out there, right? All my men out there, we going to talk about why your kids don't like your new woman. Like, let's keep it real. A lot of times we get into these new situations after not necessarily dealing with things correctly with the mother of our kids. We get into these new situations, get into all this drama with the women. So it's important as men, we kind of break down, like, why is this happening, right? Like, what are we doing specifically to put us in situations where we have our new woman and the mother of our kids, and we getting all this turmoil, right? So on today's show, we gonna talk about why your kids don't like your new woman. You feel me? We gonna dig deep into that shit. Also on the show, I like to talk about different news stories. I take different news stories going on around the country. Sometimes it's just articles I find about different things that we go through in our community, different things that can kind of lead to us being more aware. So I like to touch on these things as well. We also dig deep into black businesses. I try to find black businesses around the country that are qualified, black businesses around the country that are doing good business and have good names. Because again, we spend billions of dollars every year, Christmas time, just all throughout the year. Black people spend a lot of money in America. And again, family, if we're talking about being revolutionaries, if we're talking about doing what we can to improve our community, shopping with black businesses is one of those things. And like I said, it's about shopping with qualified black businesses. Just because you black, I'm not gonna give you my money. It's like a tiebreaker to me. I can go down the street and get this particular product, but I'm gonna get it from you because you're my brother. But the product is gonna be good in quality. It's gonna be right on time. I'm not gonna have no discrepancies. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna ask you for a discount just because we black. You know what I mean? We gonna do good business together. So we talk about black business on the shows as well. If this is your first time tuning in, man, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching the video clip on Facebook, please like the video, share it, please. The podcast is available. The Melanated Convo podcast, Talking to My People, is available on all streaming platforms. So if you have Google Podcasts, if you have Apple Podcasts, you can go to any of these streaming platforms and check out the show there as well. So again, man, I want to welcome everybody to a brand new show. Let's get into it. Like I said, in a minute, we're going to get to the topic, which is why your kids don't like your new woman. We're going to dig deep into that. But first, let's get to these news stories. No, I'm sorry. First, let's get to the black businesses. And this particular business right here is really just an author, right? So me being, I always mention this because this is kind of like the reason, like one of the reasoning for my platforms, Melanated Fathers of America, is based on me having 5 children. Like I say a lot, me having 5 children, the different, the turmoil that I've put myself through having these kids, the different drama that I've put their mothers through. Has been a long road, which has actually led me here. So I wouldn't take anything back because I wouldn't have my platform if I didn't go through the particular trials and tribulations I went through with these women, right? So this author that I want to talk to y'all about today, and this is again, this is our Black Business Spotlight section. And also, if you haven't been to the website lately, please go to melanatedfathers.com, melanatedfathers.com. Subscribe to the website so you could be alerted when we drop new news stories or drop new videos or whatever the case may be. So let's get this thing going, family. So this is a sister named Rahmaan. Kenya Rahmaan. Her last name is spelled Rahmaan. Kenya has written a book called The Child Support Hustle, right? Like, it was really, when I seen this article, it was extremely important for me to talk about this, even to the point where I'm going to have somebody from her organization on the show next week, because this is such a conversation that's so close to me. You know what I mean? Being, like I said, a father of 5, I've been on child, well, I'm not on child support anymore. My oldest kid that I had that was on child support turned 18 in October, so I don't pay child support no more. Well, no current child support, but just in general, just seeing this sister's book, and I've actually ordered the book as well because I think it's powerful. We need to get an understanding of how these institutions kind of play us against each other, right? We need to get an understanding of just being black people in America. We already have a lot of systematic things to deal with, and the child support system is one of these things. So the sister wrote a book called The Child Support Hustle, where she talks about the different interest rates. She talks about the return on investment in many states. You know what I mean? As far as how these states are charging us interest for our kids. She talks about how it's a separation, how being on child support, being involved in that system, putting this company in the middle of your relationship, in the middle of your situation, really can't do you no good. You feel me? So let me read a little bit about her actual book, and I'm excited, man. I can't wait to get the book in the mail so I can actually read it. I'm gonna put it on the website as a book of the month as well. This is important. So for all my fathers out there, it's like a warning, man. We need to be clear on what can happen if you put yourself in a situation where you're having kids with women that you don't know too well, or having kids with women that you haven't built like a solid relationship with. And when that system comes into play, it can drive a wedge between not just you and the woman, but you and your kids as well. You feel me? So Mrs. or Miss Rahmaan has discovered how to use, I'm sorry, Miss Rahmaan has discovered how the use of inaccurate labels has caused destruction amongst parents who live in separate households. Now, the term fatherless has been heavily indoctrinated into our psyche. We have been convinced that because the father does not live in the same home as the mother and the child, that he's not active in the child's life, and this is far from the truth. You can be an active father without living in the same household as your child, based on Kenya's findings, and that speaks to me personally because my 4 older children has never lived with me. But just to keep it real, y'all, even though they would just come over on the weekends, shit, during the week, I'm preparing for them. During the week, I'm making sure things is right so when they get here on the weekend. During the week, I'm talking to them and making sure things is going good in school. So just because you don't now, of course, let's keep it real. It's preferred that you do live in the house with your kids and your children's mother. But if that's not the case, you can still be a dedicated father and not actually live with your children. And in society, we get a bad rap sometimes because they make it seem as if you're not in the home, you can't be a dedicated and really detailed father when it comes to what your children need. You feel me? So let me see what else I want to say here. So based on Kenya's findings. So she goes on to explain how it is beneficial for the state to mislabel 2 household families as of 2. And I'll read a little bit more before I go on to the next business. But this is powerful to me, y'all. Like, this sister writing this book is important. And again, it speaks to a lot of the things that I've been through. So I really appreciate it. Now, as of 2019, the Office of Child Support Enforcement, or OCSE, reported that the national average for the return on investment, ROI, for every dollar spent on the child support program, was $5.06. Some states have reported an ROI in double figures. For example, Texas and South Dakota reported a ROI of $11.81 and $11.68 respectfully. So understand that, family, because I've looked at my child support statement before, and just like on some real shit, I'm looking at the statement and I see the amount that's due and I see interest. I'm thinking, interest on what? A goddamn human life? Interest on my child? You know what I mean? So I've never felt comfortable being involved in that system. Now, granted, as parents, mothers and fathers, we need to do a better job making sure that system isn't needed. Because if your girl gets on welfare, child support's gonna come for you immediately, you know what I mean? Or after a minute, but they will be coming. So if your girl's on welfare, you're gonna end up paying child support. If you are not in communication with the woman and she's being vindictive, or you not giving her enough money, whatever the case may be, if there's a lack in communication, this child support system can always be used, and we need to keep it real. Like the sister that I'm gonna have on the show next week, she was talking to me about the fact that when she comes on the show, she wants to talk to females about the child support system, because females allow that system to be placed in the middle of their relationship. They allow that system, some females, not all, Let's be honest, or let's keep it real. Not all, but some females allow that system to come in the middle of her and the dude, and now it's like the child support system is the daddy. You know what I mean? She's referring to them instead of allowing you to be the father you need to be. So we need to do so as a community, we need to do a better job of keeping these people out of our goddamn business. You know what I mean? So if you want to order the book, which I recommend everybody do so, you feel me? If you want to order the book, The Child Support Hustle, family, go to thechildsupporthustle.com. The book is only $10. If you know a young father, this is the thing. If you know a young father who isn't paying child support yet, regardless of the situation with the young woman, get him this book. Like, he needs to read this kind of information. He needs to be aware of what can happen if you allow this system to play y'all against each other. Because at the end of the day, we don't really need that system at all. If we have problems, if we have disagreements, we should be able to deal with this shit on our own without going to the fucking white man to help us out. That's how I feel about it. You know what I mean? So everybody go to thechildsupporthustle.com, thechildsupporthustle.com. Purchase the book. If you're a person who you don't pay child support, you haven't had to be in that unfortunate situation, but if you know somebody, you know a young dude, you know a young girl, get this book, man, so we can begin to govern ourselves. That's pretty much what it's about, y'all. Governing ourselves, like being self-sufficient and not needing this system, because this system has already set up hella roadblocks to keep us away from each other. You know what I mean? We don't need to contribute to that art on our own. So go to thechildsupporthustle.com, get that book for somebody you know. Christmas is coming up, family. Christmas is coming up, even though I don't rock with Christmas like that. Christmas is coming up. This can be a great gift for somebody in your life. And honestly, y'all, these are the type of gifts you should get people. You know what I mean? Buying people shit that's going to be not of use in a couple months, or clothing, or all this materialistic shit. In my mind now, even though, like I said, I don't rock with Christmas like that, because I understand the historical relevance and all these pagan and fake holidays. But at the end of the day, get people gifts that they can use. Get people gifts that's actually gonna feed their mind and feed their thought process. That's more beneficial than some goddamn shoes. You know what I mean? So go to thechildsupporthustle.com today. Buy that book by my girl Kenya Rahmaan. Now, second business. I said I was only gonna talk about this business 2 weeks in a row, but it's important to me, man, because this business, which is On Code Clothing Company, again, speaks to me personally, because on my show, in my life, really, I preach a lot to black folks about being on code, like having a code of conduct. What is a code of conduct? How we treat each other, how we talk to each other, how we conversate with each other, how we talk about each other in front of company, how we support black businesses or not. Like, there's a lot of things we can do in our community where we staying on code. You know what I mean? So that's important to me. So oncodeclothing.com, if you go to the website, I like the clothing line because it has a lot of empowering messages on the shirts, like Black History in the Making. It talks a lot about the benign neglect policy and how to get rid of that, which, if many of you aren't aware, I think the 1950s or 60s, I may be a little wrong on that, but the benign neglect policy was a policy that was created because when we were at a time where we were rioting and there was a lot of social unrest in this country, the government at the time did a study, right? The Monahan report, I think it is, yeah, did a study where they researched, why are we so mad, right? Like, why are we rioting? Why are we burning down shit? And what they came up with was, they was promising us shit. They was telling us they were gonna do things, and said thing never happened. So because of that, we riot, we protest, we do all these things. Right now, what they said was, okay, all we gotta do is don't offer them nothing no more. That's the benign neglect policy. Also, there are sweaters for women, leggings for women, and like I said, shirts with Mansa Musa. They have face masks available. They have a HBCU collection. So all my brothers and sisters who who graduated from HBCUs. It's all the different shirts and gear for those particular schools. And like I said on the last show, even if you never went to a HBCU, just showing your appreciation for an all black college, because we got to be real, a lot of all black colleges turn out a lot of sufficient black professionals who went through that great experience, and now they're in the world teaching, doctors, all different kind of professions. So we need to salute HBCUs. You know what I mean? From that regard. Also, like I said, there's a 2020 collection where the 2020 collection just talks about different things we've been through this year as far as COVID is concerned, as far as these presidential candidates not necessarily having black agendas. So man, look, again, it's Christmas time, holiday season. Even if you don't want to get somebody something for Christmas, I'm sure it's somebody's birthday in your family, right? I'm sure it's somebody's birthday, or you just want to get somebody a gift. Go to oncodeclothing.com, oncodeclothing.com, because we definitely need a code in our community, and we need to wear clothes that speaks to who we are as black folks, who we are as melanated people, right? Again, we spend a lot of money with fashion designers and people outside of our community. Let's circumvent some of those funds back to the black community, and one way you can do that is by supporting black businesses. Family, again though, like I said, qualified black businesses, and this is definitely a qualified black business. So go to oncodeclothing.com, oncodeclothing.com, pick up some gear for Christmas, and then go to thechildsupporthustle.com and get that book for somebody in your life, so they can get some good game about how to avoid the pitfalls of the child support system. Family, so let's get everything going, man. So let's see here. Now, first news story, something I want to talk about, right? This is a story that I've had for maybe like 3-4 weeks, and I just kind of forgot to talk about it, and I wasn't going to talk about it today, but this is important to me. This is important because on the show, I talk a lot about police brutality, right? I talk a lot about how we're treated by police officers, the negative effects of it, how it needs to stop, right? Now, one of the ways that we can attempt, because it's difficult dealing with this system, but one of the ways that we can attempt to even the playing field a little bit, one way that we can attempt to make sure when cops do harm us in a negative manner, they could possibly get arrested for it, is who we vote as our prosecutors. Family, everybody's talking about, or has been talking about, the presidential election, which is definitely important, but our local elections, which I know a lot of you are beginning to hear this a lot, but it's true, family. Like who we vote in as a prosecutor, the prosecutor / DA, whatever you want to call them, these are the people who are in charge of charging these cops. These are the people who are in charge of making sure these cops go to jail. You know what I mean? So let me read an article that I found called 5 Reasons You Should Care About Your Local Prosecutor Race. Right now, there are some really important elections happening this year, but because it's a presidential election year, you might not be hearing about them. Now, don't get this wrong. The presidential campaign is really important, but local races often have an even bigger impact on your day-to-day life. So keep that in mind, right? Now, local races, like the one for the prosecutor, and it's important to know like what the prosecutor does, like what his job is, how does he affect the criminal justice system. So let's get into that. Like the prosecutor determines, like I said, how and whether to charge someone with a crime. After someone's been arrested, prosecutors or district attorneys determine which crime to charge the person with, or whether they even charge them at all. And as we've seen over, with several situations, Breonna Taylor, Stephon Clark, Mike Brown, we can just go down the list. These cops haven't been charged, and it's the prosecutors in these cities that's not charging them, right? Now, also something I wanted to point out, I'm not going to read the whole article, but it's something I wanted to point out just so everybody can know. And again, some of you may know this information, but bear with me. If you have family members who aren't aware of how this shit works, please make sure they tune in, share the video with them, make sure you just tell them at the least. The prosecutors also determine what the bail's gonna be, right? So they determine how high the bail is going to be. We understand now that the most black people can't afford bail. That's why they're in jail. You know what I mean? So it's more of a innocent until proven, guilty until proven wealthy type of situation, opposed to it being something fair. But again, voting in the right prosecutor, you'll have a say so. And again, it makes it difficult because I'm not that trusting of politicians. So it's difficult for me to, even on a local level, right? But we got to start somewhere. And being in this country, family, we got to figure out a way to participate in this system where it can still benefit us, because we're in this democracy, quote unquote. So we need to find ways to help ourselves out. You feel me? We need to find ways to be of service to our people the best way we can. So as far as so it's setting bail. The prosecutor determines the plea bargain process, where we know a lot of brothers take that plea deal opposed to going to trial, assuming that if they go to trial, they're going to get a harsher sentence, or not going to trial because they got a public pretender and not a real lawyer. You know what I mean? So these are the type of traps. That get set up for us to fall into this system. And also, last thing I'll say about the prosecutor is that can put a break on mass incarceration, right? If we have prosecutors who are empowering people, right? If we have prosecutors who believe in empowering black folks, then we can change some of this shit overnight. It's like a lofty goal, but we can definitely change some of this shit overnight. Let me take a look at something here, family. Hold on one second. Oh, so we remember the Breonna Taylor case, and the prosecutor in that case, Daniel Cameron, all the shit he was hiding, how he only presented certain charges to the jury. Like, in my opinion, that brother don't have our best interest in mind. So it's important, again, that we look for prosecutors that got our best interest in mind. So when situations like that happen, we can have more of a favorable outcome, right? And also in Sacramento, the Stephon Clark case, we have a prosecutor here named Anne Marie Shumpert who did the same kind of shit. These brothers killed him in cold blood, no charges brought up on officers, right? So all of this speaks to the fact that when it's time to vote for the prosecutors in your area, I think it's every 4 years, when it's time to vote for the prosecutors in your area, be aware, family. Be aware of who they are. Be aware of the pros and the cons of those particular individuals. Use your social media platform to talk about these individuals, right? Because again, when it was the presidential race, everybody was on that. Everybody was talking about that. Everybody was giving it 100 and posting who they're going to vote for, arguing about Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Let's do the same thing when it's time for a prosecutor race to come. You feel me? And like I was saying, man, some of us aren't too keen on politics, and I understand it. Me being that way for a while too, family, but we got to dig in. Like, this is the system that we stuck with. It's important that we become a little political savvy. Like, you ain't got to dig into it all the way if you don't want to, but you should know the general information about who's the prosecutor in your area, when is the time to vote for them, who's running for the prosecutors in your area, so you can try your best to vet these individuals and get as much information as you can about them, so you can get a clear understanding of what they represent, and hopefully, when a cop kill one of us, they'll go to bat for us. You feel me? But keep it in mind, they're a part of the system too. But again, this is the system that we stuck with, family, and we got to do something. You feel me? So, prosecutors in your area, find out who the prosecutor is in your city. Do a little research about them. Be prepared when the new election comes around, so you can hopefully get somebody in there that's more sufficient. You feel me? Now, next news story I wanted to talk about. You feel me? So, and this is based on speaking with a buddy of mine who was trying to tell me that white people get killed by cops just as much. You know what I mean? I don't want to keep harping on the race shit, but it's important that we kind of contextualize what be going on with our people. It's important that we look at the facts about what happens to our people, right? So like I was telling him, and this was just my opinion. I didn't do any research. I just felt as if we got killed more by cops than people outside of our community, right? So let me read you this article that I found that's titled, Racial Disparity in Police Shootings Unchanged Over the Past 5 Years. So from 2015 to 2020, this was like a comprehensive study that was done. Let's dig into it, right? So over the past 5 years, there has been no reduction in the racial disparity in fatal police shooting victims despite increased use of body cameras in closer media scrutiny. Now, this is according to a new report by researchers at Yale and the University of Pennsylvania. Now, using information from a national database compiled and maintained by the Washington Post, researchers found that victims identifying as black, indigenous, or people of color, whether armed or unarmed, had significantly higher death rates compared with whites, right? Now, and those numbers remain relatively unchanged from 2015 to 2020. Excuse me. Now, while the data have, the data is definitely publicly available, excuse me, the researchers decided to enter it into the scientific literature and present it using methods that are accepted by science as rigorous and robust. Now, it's critical, said author Darwin Boatwright, assistant professor of emergency medicine at Yale, that fatal police shootings of people of color are recognized and treated as a public health emergency. And that's another reason why I wanted to read this article, because we need to realize, family, in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons why we continue to get killed. Now, of course, like I mentioned before, policing in America is nothing more than slave patrols. The policing in America started by them policing slaves, making sure slaves were in their place. So that's something we definitely have to continue to be aware of. But also, this country hasn't treated it like a public health crisis. And again, it ain't all about race, shit, but at times it is. Because I believe if 16-year-old white girls was getting killed by the police indiscriminately, this whole country would shut down, trying to find out a solution, right? So we need to treat young black men the same goddamn way. Now, in an analysis of 4,653 fatal shootings for which information about both race and age were available, the researchers found a small but statistically significant decline in white deaths, only about 1%, but that's significant, but no significant changes in the deaths of people of color. Now, and this is within a 5-year period, so follow me. There were 5,367 fatal police shootings during that 5-year period, according to the Post's database. In the case of armed victims, Native Americans, and this was surprising to me, Native Americans were killed by police at a rate 3 times higher than white people. It was 77 of them total killed. Black people were killed at a rate of 2.6 times the rate of white people. It was 1,265 of us killed. And Hispanics were killed at nearly a rate of 1.3 times the rate of white people. 889 of them were killed. Among unarmed victims, black people were killed at 3 times the rate, 218 of us, and Hispanics 1.45 times the rate. It was 146 total of them. So I'm going to read a little bit more about this because this is pretty interesting to me, family. Now, those killed by police on average are young people. The average age for all victims is like 34 years old. For black people, the average age is 30. For Hispanics killed, the average age is 33. Native Americans, 31. White people, 38. Now, the report quantified the impact of people of color in terms of years of life lost. This is the part that I want to get to. Then we'll move on to something else. But this is important information, family. Think about it this way. They calculated it by the amount of years lost total for these people, right? Because think about this, and I was talking about this a few weeks ago when the brother Kawan Charles, a young brother, was found dead and after leaving his house with this white family and all this shit. I was thinking to myself, and I was talking about on the show, how this is a 16, 17-year-old brother that's not going to be able to have kids. He's not going to be able to go to his prom. He's not going to be able to travel the world. He's not going to be able to go to college. Like, this is a life cut short. This is an actual person. You see what I'm saying? Like, we need to humanize black people that are getting killed so maybe some of this shit don't happen. Now, a way of measuring premature deaths that gives greater weight to death at a young age. And they found an average of 31,960 years of life lost annually in the United States due to police shootings. Now, if you think about it that way, think about how much time These young people, or think about the fact that these young people won't be able to have families, man. They won't be able to move on with their life. They won't be able to go through life and go through the ebbs and flows of life. That's some fucked up shit that all of us need to be upset about. You feel me? That's why I make sure that we talk about things of this nature, family, because it's an unfairness, but it's important that we continue to talk about it. It's important that we kind of get to a place where we figure out, what is it that we can do as a community to prevent some of this shit from happening, right? Because people like to tell me when we talk about black men getting killed in America, police brutality, the overall condition of black folks in this country, people like to tell me that it's about, fathers not being in the home, or personal responsibility and all this shit. And that's a separate argument to me. Like, yes, we need more fathers. Yes, in our community, we need to be more accountable about shit, but we need to realize, like, the cause of a lot of these problems. Like, why aren't there more fathers in the home? Are we just gonna say that it's because black men are shiftless, black men don't want to be there? No, the Jim Crow laws, civil rights struggle, all these things, this shit is 50 to 60 years ago. This isn't a long time, family. In my opinion, the residual effect of all of these things still plague our community today. Now, that doesn't mean you find out this information and in your mind, this is an excuse not to be successful, or this is an excuse not to thrive in this society. That's not why I talk about these stories. We talk about these stories so you can be aware and then figure out ways to maneuver around these things, right? Like we are a strong people, we are a resilient people, and we can get through a lot of this shit. We just got to be smart about it, right? So I don't talk to you about police brutality or racism or systematic racism. I don't talk to you about any of these things so you can feel down on yourself and think, okay, I can't be successful in this country, or I can't do the things I feel necessary to benefit my family in the correct way, because that's not true. You can, but you need to be aware of how your people is treated. You need to first be aware of how your people is treated in this country. Then, in my opinion, figure out a way to take action. Like I say every week, whether that's starting a nonprofit organization, whether that's volunteering, whether that's feeding people in the community, whether if you're a brother, whether that's being a mentor to young dudes in your hood or young dudes in your environment that may not have it together or may not have male influences. So when it comes to fixing the problems of this country, we need all hands on deck. I need more of my brothers to care, right? I need more of my brothers to give a fuck about what's going on with your other brothers. I don't want the police to have to kill you, or for you to go through some systematic shit for then you to say, yeah, I want to help out. Nah, we need to start helping out now. You feel me? So it's unfair how we're treated by the police. I just want to point out to anybody, even some black people outside of our community who think we're treated fairly, we're not treated fairly. Sometimes you got to go to statistics. Sometimes you got to go to the white folks statistics to show people that it is a disparity in how we're treated, and something needs to be done about it, right? So as a community, what can we do? In my opinion, I would like for us to use some of these instances as a motivating factor. Like, all right, y'all gonna treat us like that? I'm gonna start a business. I'm gonna be a family man. I'm gonna make sure I keep my family together. I'm gonna make sure I teach my kids about history, right? So we can use some of these negative interactions as motivation to be the best that we can be, family. You feel me? So let's go. Move on. Next story, something a little lighter. You know what I mean? I'm gonna start bringing more lighter topics, things that I like, but more lighter. We don't always gotta go on the race thing like that, but it's necessary. You feel me? So, next topic. Now, and this is going to be fun, right? So, Juicy J came out and said that, and I don't agree with this, but he came out and said that 3 6 Mafia is the best rap group of all time, right? Now, if you know hip hop, like on some real shit, you know that's not true. But it brings up a question, family, right? Like, y'all talk to me about that. Who do you think is the best rap group of all time, right? So let me give you some options, and I'll get into who I think is, or who I consider my favorite, because when we say best, that's kind of subjective. But of course, we got Run DMC. Of course, we got NWA. We got Outkast. We got Dog Pound. We got UGK. We got 8 Ball and MJG. We got Wu-Tang Clan, who was really influential. Tribe Called Quest, Eric B. and Rakim, Ghetto Boys, Bone, Thugs in Harmony, right? EPMD, Goody Mob, new group Migos. I don't really rock with the Migos, but the kids love them. You know what I mean? And once it's all said and done, you're going to have to factor in their contributions to hip hop, right? And really, when we look at like a 3-6 Mafia, I understand what he's saying. Like in the 90s, these brothers did have a strong impact on hip hop. In the 90s, they were trendsetters. I personally don't necessarily like simple flow hip hop. I'm more of a lyrical metaphor type of enjoyer. So it's certain groups, certain rappers that I respect, but I never really got around to listen to their shit too much because of the simple matter of their flow. And that kind of speaks to how I feel about 3-6 Mafia, but we got to look at the impact, like the production that them brothers was able to do, the fact that they was independent after a while, the fact that they ushered in Gangsta Boo and like a whole slew of other artists after them, you know what I mean? So they were definitely impactful, probably, for sure the most impactful group from Memphis, or the most impactful rappers from Memphis. Well, keeping in mind that A-Ball and MJG is from there as well. So who do y'all got, man? If you had to decide who was the best hip hop group of all time, how would you even do that, right? Because I would say you would have to take in a couple factors, like what was their impact on the culture at the time that they was out. You go with their impact. You go with like their cultural relevance. Like, was people trying to dress like them, right? Did people want to look like them? How much of an impact did they have on our day-to-day life? Then you got to go to like their staying power. Like, right, if there's a hip hop group that had one album that was the shit, but they didn't quite continue that trajectory, then that's kind of a knock on them to me, right? Opposed to a Outkast or another group who was able to put together 3, 4, 5 platinum albums in a row. That shit matter, right? So it's cultural relevance, staying power, effectiveness of the crew. Like if it's a group of 3 or 4 dudes, how many of them do you like? Like, was there a weak link in the crew type of shit? You know what I mean? Because my personal favorite, because again, we got a whole, because there's, like I said, Migos, I forgot to say G Unit, like EPMD, the Clips, they hard. They was hard. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely not three. I respect those brothers, but definitely not 3-6 Mafia. So I would say, look, my favorite, me personally, let me take a look here. My favorite group of all time. I'm from California, Northern California to be exact. You know what I mean? I'm from California. My favorite hip hop group of all time is the Click. E40, Sugar T, Be Legit, D Shot. My favorite group of all time is the Click, because my favorite artist of all time is E40. And in the 90s, even into the early 2000s, E40 and the Click had an extremely large impact on Bay Area rap. Now, there's some other, Bay Area groups that I rocked with a lot. There was RBO Posse, 3-6, not 3-6 Mafia, but RBO Posse. 3 Times Crazy was extremely effective in the Bay Area, in California. Many people outside of California may not be aware of who 3 Times Crazy is, but Keek the Sneak, Bart, Agerman, great group from the Bay Area, you know what I mean? But I would say the Click has to be my favorite. Next from my favorite, or next from the Click, I would say my favorite, y'all, would be Outkast. Simply because of what they did for the South. My family being from the South, I was heavy into Southern music when I was younger, just based on having a connection to my family in New Orleans and Mystical and No Limit Records and all this shit when they first got popping. And I would say Outkast is probably one of the more influential groups, simply because what they was able to do for the South. Like, they ushered in an era for the South and Atlanta. Like, we gotta be clear on how impactful Atlanta hip hop has been to the music industry. You know what I mean? So I say Outkast is definitely probably like my second favorite. I like Dog Pound too, just being a West Coast dude. They haven't put out much music lately, but I'm definitely a Dog Pound fan. UGK was able to bring a lot of good music to the table. Pimp C, his untimely demise, you know what I mean? That was unfortunate, but them two brothers together was like a real good mix. You know what I mean? So we could talk about this all day, man. It's like a lot of these groups bring something different. Like even the Wu-Tang Clan. I'm not and never have been like a Wu-Tang Clan fan. Like I can't the music, like the production was always on some it was too East Coast for me. But we can't negate these brothers' impact and how several of them you can still see their impact around the music industry, whether they're acting, whether they're producing or doing scores for movies like RZA do, like Method Man is an extremely talented lyricist. You know what I mean? Old Dirty Bastard was a just a great personality that went too quickly, you know what I mean? But these brothers' impact can be seen around the music industry today, and they have like a global following as far as China and all these different places that really appreciated their work, you know what I mean? We can't forget, like, well, Eric B. and Rakim, I guess you could call them a group, but it was only one dude rapping because, you know, we know how hard Rakim is. So it's a interesting conversation, right? To get into even the Ghetto Boys. Like, look at the Ghetto Boys. You know what I mean? The Ghetto Boys had a lot of hit records. They had a lot of hit albums. But if you was to like the criteria I was talking about earlier, with like the effectiveness of the crew, Scarface was hella hard, but then it was kind of like a drop off. Like I rock with Willie D now and all the stuff he doing now, but he wasn't that tight of a rapper to me. Neither was Bushwick Bill. Like he was more entertaining than actually a thorough MC. You know what I mean? So it's something to think about, man. But I definitely say it ain't 3 6 Mafia. But I want to talk about that because I'm such a big fan of hip hop, and I want to get everybody take. When you watch the video, comment under the video. Who is your favorite hip hop artist of all? Or I'm sorry, your favorite hip hop group of all time, and why? You know what I mean? Because it's a lot of factors to put in there. Because again, this is subjective. I'm sure we gonna get a lot of different answers because, like I listed, it's a lot of different groups. You feel me? So let's talk about it, family. Who is your favorite or the best? Who is the best you think? The best hip hop group of all time? Let's talk about it. Now, let me see here. Do I got another story? No, family, we rolling. Family, we rolling. Please, please, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube page yet, please do so, family. Melanated Fathers TV on YouTube. Subscribe right now if you haven't done so. Go to the website, melanatedfathers.com. Check out the content. Comment on the content. Tell me what you think about the content, about the articles. A lot of articles about history. There's a lot of articles about what's going on in the world. Articles about parenting. Clips from these shows are on the website. So go to the website. Tell me what you think about the information we present. Now, it's time to get into the topic of the day, which is why your kids don't like your new woman. Now, this is for my fellas out there. You know what I mean? This is from a male's perspective, but this is something that we need to understand because I am a man who, like I always say, I'm completely transparent. I got 5 kids. I moved on to a new relationship. You know what I mean? And there was drama and there was uncomfortable situations and there was a lot of different things I brought on myself because of how I handled it. So it's important as black men that we try to master this transition from being with one woman that we have kids with, all the emotions that comes with that, all the years or all the time that was spent. You have a kid with this woman, now you're deciding to move on. It's important that you move on correctly so it benefits everybody. Like as a man, we need to realize how much control we actually have over these situations, right? Like it's up to you to make that transition easy. Like if you move on and your new woman and your baby mama don't like each other and they fighting and they going at each other, a part of that shit's your fault, family. Regardless of what the situation is, how you maneuver is gonna kind of set the pace for how these women are going to conduct themselves with each other, right? So let's get into why do you think your kids won't like your new girl? And this is what I say. I got a list of things here that I want to get into. The first thing I would say why your children may resent the new woman you in a relationship, right? The new woman you're in a relationship with, right? Excuse me. If you moved on from your baby mother the woman you was in a relationship with, had a kid with whatever. If you moved on from her and there was a lot of turmoil when you were moving on, let's say you were lying about what you was doing. Let's say you guys ended on bad terms, and all of a sudden your kids just see this new woman. There's probably gonna be some resentment there, right? Like how you end a relationship says a lot. Like how you how you end a relationship, especially with a woman that you got a kid with, says a lot about how things are gonna happen moving forward. Like, is she going to be resentful and not let you see your kids? Is she gonna hold that against you and make it a thing where now you on child support, like I was talking about earlier? So as men, fellas, understand we control this shit. If you do these things the right way, you won't have no problems. Or if you do it the right way, the problems won't be because of you. And that's what I'm trying to make sure for all my brothers, that we handle ourselves like men and make sure how we conduct ourselves is indicative of how we want to live our life. Is indicative of like a calm reality. You know what I mean? Because I've been through a whole bunch of shit that I brought on myself. You feel me? Because like I was saying, you move on from your baby mama, but you have unresolved issues with her. There are things you guys never resolved, and all of a sudden they see you with this new woman. That's not gonna work out the best for you. Also, sometimes dudes, they'll move on from their baby mama, and the woman they messing with now, they fucking with just because of physical attraction, right? You may not even see a future with this woman, but you bringing her to your house, you bringing your kids around her, you moving in with her hella quick. Like, all this shit can cause your kids to look at the situation and be like, wait a minute, wait a minute, Dad. I want to go home. I don't want to be involved with this, right? So that's why it's important that if you have to move on, if it's the unfortunate situation happened where you're no longer in a relationship with the mother of your kids, you gotta take your time, family. If what I would recommend doing, as soon as you're not in a relationship with the mother of your kids no more, give everybody time to kind of heal from that situation. Meaning, if you was living with your baby mom, now y'all not living together no more, it's already bad enough that now your children have to go to a second home, right? Now, going to that second home and there's a woman there, or there's always a woman around, that's not going to allow your children to heal properly. That's not going to allow them to kind of grasp what's actually going on right now, right? Some dudes get a new girl and they all around your kids. You got your kids calling them mama and all this shit. One of the biggest proponents to me to a successful relationship is taking the time to get to know somebody. And this is even more stringent when you got kids involved. Family, when there's kids involved, the whole rule book changes, man. And I know my fellas hear this a lot, but that's real shit, bro. We have to put these kids first. And putting these kids' feelings first, meaning when I get in this new relationship, I'm moving slow. I'm not bringing them to my house. I'm not introducing them to my kids. Some people feel like that's a positive thing to kind of introduce your new chick to your kids hella early. Nah, what if y'all don't last? Then you're going to be just bringing hella chicks in and out your life? That's a representation of how your kids gonna view, especially if you got boys and girls, but it's a representation of how they're gonna view how to maneuver in a relationship. We gotta realize, man, we can tell our kids whatever we want to tell them, but more than half of the communication in a home is nonverbal. You see what I'm saying? They watching what you do more than what you say. So if you're in a situation where you got this new girl, you're bringing her to your house, having her cook for your kids, you're doing all this family shit, there can be some resentment there from your kids. Your kids can end up not liking the woman, especially if you didn't vet this woman. If you didn't take the proper time to get to know who this woman is, then you may have an enemy in your house. You may have to leave your kids with this woman, and she's talking shit to your kids. She don't mean your kids no well. She just want to be with you. But it's like, fuck the kids. So because of that, she treating them a certain way. Kids can pick up this energy, man. Kids ain't stupid, family. So if you want to prevent hella drama, if you want to prevent putting your family in a situation where people have to choose between that person and that person, slow the fuck down, man. Slow down. Something else I want to say. After you are and this is not even just a woman you got kids with, but in general, after a relationship don't work, you need time to kind of decompress and figure out what the hell you did wrong. Figure out what the hell they did wrong. Like, be accountable as possible and figure out Who dropped the ball? Where you dropped the ball? Because if you don't, you know what's gonna happen? You're gonna do the same thing. If you don't, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna get in a relationship and you're gonna find yourself dealing with some of the same issues if you don't rectify what caused that relationship not to fail. Like how much of it was you? How much of it was what you're not doing, what you're not saying? You know what I mean? So it's important that we slow down, man, and especially when kids are involved. I recommend all my fathers out there, if you are now single because you and your baby mama didn't work out, you and the mother of your kids, you and your ex-wife, whatever it was, you need time to decompress and time to make sense of the new life you have to have. So when you move out and you got your spot, the worst thing you can do is incorporate a new woman into this situation when your kids now they need to get used to just being with you. Now they need to get used to this two parent or this two household shit where if you're gonna have them on the weekends, you're gonna have 1 week on, 1 week off, however you choose to do it, right? However you choose to do it, it's important that you take the necessary time and reacclimate yourself with your kids. Create a sense of normalcy now. Because whether we want to admit it or not, if you were in a situation where you were living with your woman and you guys were raising your kids together, and all of a sudden that's not happening anymore, and it has to be two households, that's trauma for a child. Let's focus, y'all, and think more about these babies. That's trauma for a child that I'm used to seeing my mama and daddy together. It's even worse if y'all at each other's throat, or it gotta be some child support or some mediation and all this fuck shit that we can all avoid if we go about this thing the right way. You see what I'm saying? So we need to think about that, family. We need to think about our kids when it's time to move forward. Think about our kids when we're trying to build the life that we want. So you need to give your kids time to get used to just being with you, to get used to being in your new dwelling, whatever that house may be, big house, small house, you living with somebody, whatever the case may be. They need to get used to just being with you by yourself. They need to get used to the new routine of mom picking them up, dad picking them up. Hopefully you guys are cordial and you're speaking to each other with respect and you're not allowing your kids to see all this damn dysfunction. But we need to realize, especially, I'm speaking to my brothers though, because unfortunately in our community, I was a part of this. We have a lot of men who have children by multiple women. That's one of the biggest reasons I'm talking about this today, because I was one of those men, right? Who have children by multiple women. There's a way, hear me out, family. There's a way to maneuver in this situation where it's still beneficial for everybody involved. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to, just because you moved on to a new relationship, don't mean it should have to be sloppy. Don't mean that your new girl and your baby mama gotta hate each other. They ain't gotta be friends, but everybody should be cordial. And one of the main reasons why everybody won't be cordial is because the fuck shit you was on. Let's keep it real as men. This is something I had to realize. I had to realize how much control I actually had over my relationships. How much control I had, not over a woman, but how, as a man, and believe me when I say this, you can manage a woman's emotions if you do things the right way. You keep it 100. You communicate the right way, you keep your word, you can manage her emotions. Now, some women just gonna go off on the deep end and be like, fuck you, nigga, I'm gonna do whatever I wanna do. That's gonna happen. But as men, my brothers out there, we need to make sure we're not a part of the problem, but a part of the solution. And the way to be a part of the solution, family, is put your kids first. If the relationship with their mom didn't work, everybody needs time to recover from that. You move on too fast, they not only going, because the topic of the show is why your kids don't like your new girl. Well, shit, you can put your kids in a situation where they don't even like your ass no more. You see what I'm saying? If you in a situation where you putting this woman first, you putting this woman's needs before your children's needs, if they see you treating this woman, if they see you treating this woman away, if they see you treating this woman away and not doing it to their mom, that could be a problem. Now, I want to address the comment. Lisa, if you still listening, tell me why shouldn't I use the nigga word? Tell me what's your problem with that word, since you want to make that comment. because that's the word that I use. This is off topic like a motherfucker, but I'm gonna talk about it with you, Lisa. That's the word that I use. Do you know the historical relevance of that word, or does that matter to you? Like, give me your definition of nigga, Nigga. You know what I mean? Because I understand how some people in our community have a problem with this word, but the definitions we've been given about this word come from the same people who gave us chillins, same people who gave us Christmas and Thanksgiving. Like, if you knew the etymology of that word, that's actually some African shit. Like on some, you know what I mean? So I speak the way I speak, and it's based on what I know. And that's a word that's heavy in our community. It's heavily scrutinized, and I'll probably always use it because I know the historical relevance of that word. I'm not going to allow people to take a word, take our stuff and say, oh, it means ignorant or it means shiftless. It don't mean any of that. You feel me? But back to that topic. So it's important, fellas, that we do things the right way. It's important, fellas, that we make it a point to be as transparent and as calm, cool, collective as possible so we can get through these situations because, again, you have the power. You know what I mean? Like, I remember being 22, 23 years old and going through drama with women and feeling like I didn't know what to do. Like, literally. I was like, damn, how do I navigate these situations? And I was making mistakes, like a big mistake that I was making. And a lot of my fellas can attest to this. If you have children with a woman and you move on, one of the biggest negative things you can do is still be having sex with her. You know what I mean? Thinking you moving on or thinking you can have sex with her and there's not going to be any emotional ties. Being involved with a woman sexually is emotional anyways for her. If there's a kid involved, that's going to be too emotional. Like, you need to cut ties. If you're going to be about that life and moving on to a new relationship and a new beginnings and all this shit, that's going to have an effect on if you can see your kids. That's going to have an effect on just how she treats you. You know what I mean? So that's a rule. And that's funny, but that's true. All my fellas out there, if you want to move on from your old relationship with your baby mama, one of the biggest things you cannot do is have sex with her still. You can't still be having sex with her not thinking she is going to formulate in her mind, okay, maybe we're going to get back together. Maybe we're going to start a family now the way we should have in the first place. You know what I mean? So this is a interesting topic, family, but these are things that we need to talk about. You know what I mean? If you a black man and you know younger black men, like, it ain't cool to have hella kids running around from different females. I don't give a fuck how many rappers tell you that. I don't give a fuck how much we normalize that in our community. That's not normal, family. That's not normal. When we talk about racism, when we talk about white supremacy, when we talk about what's been done to us by the system that we live in, these things are true. But we have a say in this. There are things we can do, right? There are things, and one of the things we can do, I always tell men this, one of the most revolutionary acts you can do is be a family. One of the most revolutionary acts you can do as a black man is to have your kids in your house, right? To have your kids and your woman in your house. That's going to cut down a lot of confusion. A lot of the problems we face in our community is we men, for whatever reason, we know it's system, we know some dudes ain't shit, whatever it may be, we got dudes that just ain't in their kids' lives, and that's a part of the problem. When we look at gang violence, when we look at how these young men treat each other, when we look at how these young men treat their women, when we look at how these young men conduct themselves, I think a part of this is where we at as men. You know what I mean? So it's important that we get a grip on this shit and unnormalize certain things. Like, we need to make being with one woman in the house with this woman and the kid, we need to make that shit cool. Opposed to thinking you got to have a baby over there, the whole baby mama, y'all got 5, 6 kids. I don't care how much money you got. On some real shit, I don't care how much money you got. Having kids in different households fractures our community, period. You know what I mean? So let's think about that, family. This has been another episode, man, of the Melanated Convo podcast. I want to thank everybody who continues to watch the show, everybody who sends me comments and messages. I really appreciate all the love. We're going to keep this thing popping, man. We're going to keep it popping. We're going to keep having uncomfortable conversations about the things that we need to do in our community. I'm going to always gear most of the topics towards fatherhood and family because that's what I'm passionate about. Going through some of the things I've been through and being, and in my opinion, having like a negative impact. Felt danger about what, Lisa? What you mean? But anyways, the understanding the negative impact I had on my community by not protecting my seed. Like that's real talk, family. None of us should have hella kids all over town. Like we need to stop that shit immediate, family. Now, granted, sometimes like we talking about, you're gonna be in a relationship with a woman and it don't work. Yeah, of course you got to move on now. You're gonna be in a relationship with a woman with a kid, but we should be trying our best to make these situations work. Or don't have kids with them. Shouldn't have kid with a friend. Shouldn't have kids with a woman you was just having sex with. Put a condom on, man. Protect your seed, family. Treat every sexual encounter like this can be the one that brings about a kid or triplets or whatever. Do whatever you need to do to scare yourself. To make sure you wear a condom. Because in my opinion, you should be in a relationship for 2 to 5 years before you even think about having a kid. Like seriously, it takes time to get to know people. You dealing with somebody representative for about 1.5 years. You know what I mean? They ain't even the real motherfucker. You dealing with somebody representative for about 1.5 years. You got to go through things with people. You got to be around them and see how they handle their life. You got to be around them and see how they handle problems, see how they handle pressure, see how they treat their family. Like this is a process. We need to treat relationships like a long ass process that really don't have an end goal to it. We get in relationships 6 months. We moved in, about to get married. Fuck are we doing? That's way too soon. Now, granted, have people started quick relationships and end up in marital bliss? Sure. But that's rare, family. Like marriages in America typically don't last. And I think a part of that is the delusions of grandeur. Like we don't even realize what we actually getting into. Marriage is a whole other topic. Marriage, I'll do a show about, well, I have before, but I'll do another show about marriage and my problem with the institution of marriage, not the idea, but the actual institution of marriage. But look, man, let me stop running my mouth. It's been a great show. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Please go to melanatedfathers.com, read some of the articles, read some of the information, give me feedback on what you think. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Melanated Fathers TV on YouTube. You can find the show on all streaming platforms. Yeah. I feel you. Now, so go to melanatedfathers.com. Check out the website. Subscribe on Melanated Fathers TV on YouTube. If you watch the show on iTunes or you watch the show on Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, please subscribe so you can be alerted when new shows are available. This has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast, family. I'm out.